And go
Nice.
live. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today is, let's see, it is the 3rd of April, 2023, the end of quarter one, the beginning of quarter two, also the end of March. So we have a lot to talk about today. And with me today, I'm not by myself today. I do have my beautiful co-host with me today, the Bitcoin Queen. How you doing?
Queens in the house, guys. What up, y'all? I've been traveling the world, but I'm back.
It's great to have you back. It's been a few weeks. Because I know you were traveling, I was traveling, so it was hard to get on the same page. And then you also last week you said you did a conference and everything.
Yeah,
So you've been
yeah.
busy.
Yeah, I have. It's been a fun ride. It's something's always new in the crypto space.
Hmm.
It's one thing to watch it from afar. It's another thing to get involved and do something about it. And that's pretty much what I guess we've dedicated our lives to. Because
Yeah.
because you too, you doing the education stuff isn't easy.
Yeah, 100%. Takes a lot of time and effort, and I have to make sure that before I try to show people or educate people on things, I have to make sure that I really really know it. So it's
Yeah,
definitely,
absolutely.
yeah, it's definitely a lot of time. There's like a saying that's like, if you want to learn anything like really really well, then teach it, because that's how you really learn the little intricacies of everything, right? So today we have a lot to unpack today. We're gonna be going into talking about, of course, what's going on with the price of Bitcoin and the market right now. You can see currently the market's at around $28,000. We're going to be talking about events coming up in the economic calendar for this week and also next week, because we have an important event next week. We're going to be doing some news updates, of course, a market analysis, and then a live Q&A at the end of the live stream. So if you guys have any questions about anything that we're not only that we're covering in today's video, but well, in today's live stream, but in that's going on right now in the world of crypto, just drop it in the comments, and at the end, when we get to the live Q&A portion of the live stream, we'll go ahead and go over those for you guys. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first thing we're going to talk about, let's look at the prices here on Bitcoin. And the first thing that we're going to see, let's actually zoom out a bit here. Let's go to the,
My dad told me this weekend, like, oh, Bitcoin's pumping, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
And I was like, is it really? I was like, I
yeah.
wasn't even looking. I was like, what are my parents doing telling me that Bitcoin's pumping?
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, my mom is actually always asking me about Bitcoin. She's like, "Oh, I heard that Bitcoin went up this week or something." Right? She's always telling me things like that as
It
well.
must
So
it must be on like Telemundo or something. I don't know what's
yeah,
going on,
yeah, yeah, for
but
sure. So that's always pretty funny. But we can see just looking at the monthly. We're seeing here a big green candle on the monthly here for Bitcoin. It ended over 23% for the month. Only falling short to January, which January went up 39%. So the second biggest monthly move in the last 17 months, believe it or not, going all the way back to October of 2021. As you can see, you already know last year was not a good year at all for crypto. So it's been refreshing to say the least. And looking at Ethereum, we can see Ethereum also had a pretty decent month, going up over 13%. So it's still lagging behind, and I think for the most part, altcoins are lagging behind, and the majority of the money is currently flowing into Bitcoin. As you know, with any bull run, or not saying that we're in a bull run, but at any beginning when prices start, bottom out and start going back up, there's a cycle, right, with the dominance, with the Bitcoin dominance, where all the money flows first into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin outperforms, then the money starts shifting away from Bitcoin and into altcoins. So then the Bitcoin's dominance starts going down, and altcoins start outperforming Bitcoin. So right now we're in that first stage, right, where all the money that's flowing into the market is really going to Bitcoin, and you could actually see that in the Bitcoin dominance chart. If we look here, in the past month, Bitcoin dominance went up over 8%. It's currently sitting at 47.69%. So as that will I expect that to continue up in the beginning of any rally. And then as we see the price of Bitcoin start to kind of consolidate a bit more, then we might see that dominance drop back down, probably under 40 usually is what happens. And all that money, that means the money's going into altcoins. That's when altcoins really start outperforming Bitcoin. But right now, we're in that first stage. So, but either way, looking over the rest of the top cryptos, you can see that XRP has been doing pretty well. Up 10% over the last week. Cardano up 12% over the last week. Let me see any other coins that stood out to you in the last 7 days.
In the last 7 days, not quite. I think a lot of people have been caught up with AI. AI has been like the sweeping thing. There has been some AI cryptocurrencies that have come out. I've heard a lot of humps with things like Caspa and other things that are kind of like proof of work related stuff here and there, but nothing in like the top 20 coins. Tron got served by the SEC. Let's see what else. Stuff like that, but nothing that's been like really like Bitcoin. Obviously, that's the one you're going to hear about the most, followed by Ethereum. And I think those are the main focuses right now until stuff starts to actually run. Very light trickle about Doge and Shiba, but that's about it. I don't think we're going to hear major bullish trends until stuff. Wow.
Words are hard.
Starts to run.
Yeah, completely agree. So and let's take a look at the crypto fear and greed index. I know a lot of people always asking me about this as well. So right now we're currently sitting at a 63. So we're sitting at a 63, which counts.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it qualifies, or I don't know, it's categorized as greed. So if we go back over, let's say the last year, this is pretty much like one of the highest points we've been at here at.
I feel like that's like pretty close to neutral though. It's pretty. Yeah. It's pretty balanced in my opinion, because it's not. I mean, if we're in like the 80s, it's one thing.
Right.
60s, 66, it's pretty close to neutral. So I would say we're not too greedy yet, especially with a lot of the stuff that's happening in the financial markets overall, which we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah, if we look at back in the history of the fear and greed index, you'll see that pretty much like at the end of 2020. Beginning of 2021, we were above 90. So that's, I think that's extremely greedy or something like that. I forgot what they call it. Mm-hmm. And then in 2021, November, when we hit new all-time highs, we're actually sitting around 75 at that point. So just to kind of, I don't know, give an idea of what these value might represent. And it pretty much it represents, I think, not just the price movement, but the overall social sentiment as well goes into these things. So, what articles might be saying, what people might be tweeting, things like that. So it's just something fun to look at every now and then, I think. So let's go ahead and move on to the economic calendar, which is the next thing that's been impacting Bitcoin over the last few weeks, I think. And this week will be, I think, a quieter week from the standpoint of the economic calendar. We do have a few people from the Fed speaking throughout the week. So, sometimes that has very, very minor, movement in price, depending on, what it is that's being said. We have the jobs openings report coming out tomorrow. Again, I don't think that really is going to bring too much volatility into the market. We have unemployment rate on Friday. Again, it could bring, not saying it's not going to bring any volatility. It could bring a little bit of volatility, but I don't think it's going to be anything super impactful where it's going to really change the direction of something or play as a catalyst to really either, push something up through a resistance or drop it down below a support type of thing. So that's pretty much what I'm usually looking for as I look at the economic calendar. Now, the one thing that I really do want to look at here is next week, and this is going to be a big, impactful event here that's going to definitely bring a lot of volatility into the market, and that's on Wednesday, the 12th of April. Once again, we get that inflation rate. Last time we got the 6% inflation rate, and right now the forecast is around 5.8%. So that's the next big thing that we're getting there. And also that same day, we're actually getting the FOMC minutes, which is when they pretty much talk about why they decided on the rate hikes in their previous meeting, what they talked about, and their outlook going forward. So you have any thoughts on the inflation rate and the FOMC minutes?
Well, I've noticed that so gas prices have actually started to go up a little bit recently. I've noticed. In addition to groceries are also starting to be heavily affected again. This morning, I checked my bank account. I received a wire from, as a payback from an event I threw. And wires, used to get them for like $10, and over the years they've gone to about $15 each party.
They're like recently 30 now, right?
16.
16?
Well, it's 30. Like somebody pays 15, and then the other person pays 15. So it comes out to 30, right? But I got charged $16 this morning. So I was like, wait a second. Things are starting to heat up. In my opinion, there's in the next 2 years, I think there's going to be a lot of easing on the bond market and a few other markets that are coming up to try to bring strength back to the dollar, mostly. There is a few things that we will cover in the news today that I'm sure you guys have heard of, like BRICS and some of the other deals in terms of settlement across the world. That is gonna affect not in the way that you think it might. It's not going to be totally bad, but at the same time, it's going to kind of put the idea of fiscal fitness into play. Like inflation, like year after year, like has gone up, and people haven't been getting like increases in paycheck and stuff like that. So I think a lot of consumers are going to start really hurting with a lot of the prices of some of these things. We're not going to experience things like Argentina or Venezuela, but we are experiencing things where a lot of that foreign money that comes out in and causes a lot of things here in the U.S. to be expensive is just going to continue on an uptrend because it's just not going to stop.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I again, like you said, like I don't think it'll get to the levels of hyperinflation. I know that there was a $1 million bet going on that Bitcoin was going to hit $1 million in the next
90 days.
90 days, and basically the reason he was saying that we're going to get into hyperinflation. Now, hyperinflation, if you don't know what that is when when the money inflates, when inflation rates go up beyond 40-50%. So basically like things you see in like Argentina and stuff like that. In 90 days, we're not going to get there. Like the inflation has actually been going down for the past like 9-10 months now at this point. Even though we've run into some issues with banks and now they're moving some things around to help with banks. I don't think, especially in 90 days, that'll never happen. I'm happy to bet $1 million with the same guy. I would love to take that bet, right? Right. In the next 10 years, I still don't think in the next 10 years we would even get to such a thing of hyperinflation, because that would pretty much mean the collapse of the U.S. economy. The strongest economy in the world. And if we did, if that were to happen, like, I don't know. I don't even know where we'd be. Of course, Bitcoin and crypto would its value would be sky high. So I think we'd probably be okay. For people like us in
Well, we would
crypto.
be okay, but people who are not in crypto, even globally,
Right.
because I guess let's shift a little bit into the whole thing about countries moving away from settling on the dollar.
Yeah.
Like, this is a historic turning point in history, and there's people saying that oh, this is going to be awful. This means that we can't sell dollars to other places, this, that, and the third. I've seen a lot of different spectrums of these stories. But in reality, most people still, when you go around the world, value the dollar. And just because they're settling in their native currencies for global commerce and they're not using the dollar per se, they still don't necessarily want to hold those things. Like, they don't want to hold things like, Chinese debt or Thai debt or, Nigerian debt or whatever it is, South African debt. Like, these places in some of these countries, like, they're still very volatile. The United States and the UK are pretty much the two most advanced places outside of places like Singapore and hyper cities like Dubai. But in terms of like large countries, like, these are still the most functioning countries, and we've held that position for such a long time that even though, yes, there's been a lot of money printing, yes, a lot of the dollar has been devalued, people still rather hold US debt versus other forms of debt, or invest in, US, stocks and stuff like that. People still come here for business. So it's very unlikely that, the dollar will just, and like, this just goes to nothingness. It's very, very unlikely.
Yeah, exactly. And what people don't realize, especially the people that are out there, some people out there rooting for this to happen, right? If the U.S. economy falls, that means the world economy falls. Like, the U.S. economy is not going to fall by itself. It's going to impact the
Right, exactly.
entire world. And so even if you're not in the U.S. and you don't like the U.S. and you're rooting against the U.S., guess what? If U.S. Economy falls, whatever country you're in, that economy is also going to be falling. So I wouldn't be. It's not something I'd be rooting for. I'm all for for a lot of things that crypto stands for, but at the same time, I don't want to see the economy fall in order for crypto to surge or to get to $1 million or whatever it is. I definitely want to
Exactly.
so there has to be a fine balance, right? Where crypto continues to slowly progress, but the economy doesn't just completely collapse, because at that point, then money's going to be worth nothing, right? So it's definitely a fine balance that we have to kind of dance on here, and we'll see how that all that plays out.
So what I think is gonna have this play out, and we'll go into our next story, is Citigroup pretty much said that they believe that mass adoption will come from CBDCs. And from what we've seen on this war on crypto for the past couple weeks, I feel like players within the grand scheme of things have been positioning the people to get accustomed to these things, right? We're already seeing places where they go cashless, even though technically being cashless in most places in the United States is actually illegal. You're not allowed to like not accept USD, because that takes players away from participating in the economy and contributing to businesses. But soon enough, the CBDC initiative is going to get pushed. A lot of the bills that were being pushed in office in the White House in the past month, they have basically been prepping for this. And to hear groups of bankers now saying like, "Oh, this is the path for mass adoption," it's like, excuse me. It's quite funny. There's people bullish on it because it's going to help settle forms of payment and do this, that, and the third. But there's people bearish on it because that might equal more surveillance, more say on what to do with your money versus not. When we get there, we get there. China tried it. Their pilot first was successful, but then it failed. And the only reason it was successful was because they were basically giving people free money, like 1,000, yuan, whatever it was, and said, "Hey, go spend it on whatever you want. You can't send it to someone else, but you have to spend it." So it create a positive impact on the economy. But and we'll see how that pans out. A lot of these fully backed government assets that went into play when the banks were going belly up, that might have to do with this as well. So these are things that we kind of have to watch closely and see how pawns are played, because this might be the saving grace the economy needed, that's going to come in and help with some of this inflation.
Yeah, 100%. And like you were saying with China, and it's a big worry because, like you said, like the government's not only going to know exactly where you're spending your money, what you're spending it on, how much, what are your, like what's your daily life like? They'll have control to if they want to put an expiration date on that money and you have to use it by X date or whatever. They'll have so much control to so many different things that it's gonna be tough. So there is a good and a bad, like you said. The good is crypto is pushing the world and the technology forward to getting into this cashless system. But again, we're trying to stay away from that central point of failure, a central authority, a government figure, because we've seen what happens time and time again, what they do time and time again, for their own benefit and to the demise of the currency. So again, there's a fine balance that we all have to kind of find there eventually. In other news, let me see what else haven't we covered here. The government.
Probably Salvador, or I guess let's stay on the topic of the government. So the government's liquidating some of the remains that were seized from the Silk Road. So back in the day, I believe they seized about 53,000 Bitcoins, and they sold about 9,000 off. Now I think on April 14th, the guy, his last name is Mr. Zog, he will be sentenced, and they will sell off the remaining 41,000 Bitcoin. So about 41,500 is the number there. So there was some volatility that was caused back on March 14th when they sold off that 9,000. But we just have to kind of like watch when we get all that Bitcoin dumped on the market, because it is getting dumped within the next couple months.
Yeah, and I saw Justin Sun say that he was willing to buy it from the government at a 10% discount or something like that.
Yeah, so at some point in time, if I'm not mistaken, they did do, like, they were auctioning off like seized Bitcoin, and it was auctioned off at a discount. But I think what they're doing is just biting the 1%, selling it through Coinbase, and then just calling it a day. The 1%. After they sold, I think it came out to like $215 million when they sold off that like 9,000 BTC. So their 1% was, 215,000. A 10% discount wouldn't benefit them in that, situation. And obviously they're trying to make money right now. So they netted that profit, and that went back into their balance books. So they're definitely not going to sell at a discount.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I was reading, was this Bitcoin that they're selling, is it from the guy that was like on the message forums talking about how rich he was and all that he had hacked Silk Road? Is that where this Bitcoin's coming from?
Yeah, so pretty much it was, so they were the guy like took the funds from Silk Road, and then the government basically came after him, confiscated all that money, and that's just it. He's going to get sentenced for not directly participating in Silk Road, but actually stealing from Silk Road. So it's like stolen money is what's going on, which is quite funny.
Yeah, that's definitely the type of story you only hear in crypto, I guess. And then the last thing that we wanted to talk about was El Salvador. They have decided to remove all taxes related to tech innovation for economic growth, and that includes crypto.
Crypto, software development, application development, anything that's tech related, which is actually really cool. So I mean, what they're trying to do is very obvious. They're trying to stimulate and bring in technology into the economy, which is cool. Places like Dubai, North Africa, the Middle East in general have been booming for the past 2 years because there's been a lot of flood of the tech industry as a whole, but also cryptocurrency. And that's what El Salvador is trying to do. They're trying to attract that crowd to come in. I mean, they've done a lot of stuff. They've legalized Bitcoin. You can pay your taxes in Bitcoin. The capital gain situation. They did that Bitcoin volcano, which is like a mining setup. They're also trying to attract Bitcoin miners to the country. From what I hear, unfortunately, is that El Salvador is a lot of hype compared to when you go there and what you see advertised and expect. I've heard, negating views. I've heard good things. I've heard bad things. Overall, the government seems to really want to boost their economy and bring in new jobs, not only for the well-beings of their citizens, but also get innovative tech in, which is, that's great. I think that safety has been a continuous concern, even though supposedly the president claims that is the safest country in South America. But there is also somehow gang violence. So a little contradictory, views there. But overall, a good job, El Salvador, for being kind of like a leader who has embraced this technology. But also, everything should be wary, right? We should tread lightly. Because when it comes to governments embracing things like cryptocurrency, I think that providing clear guidelines and structure more than just trying to jump on hypes, which is actually a mistake. I don't think anyone should jump on hypes. It was funny the other day on CNBC, the mayor was asked about Miami Coin. And he was like, oh, it was a cool proof of concept, but then what? Like when he originally accepted that Miami coin, it was worth like millions. And now not so much. So, these are kind of things that you have to keep in mind. Like cryptocurrencies are volatile. Harder assets like Bitcoins are great. Things like NFTs and, just some of the coins that kind of just show up with some kind of cause, tokenizing koala rights on the blockchain, literally whatever it is, may not be so promising.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember that with the Miami coin, all the hype that went behind it, and it was bound to happen. But we'll see what happens. I know El Salvador has like you said, they say that it's the safest country in the world, but they have also the biggest prison in the world. It's like they have the biggest mega prison in the world. I don't know. I've seen some of those videos and that thing looks crazy.
Wow.
I'm definitely
that kind of reminds me of when that president from the Philippines came out. He was just like, oh, I'm gonna make my country so safe, and literally, if you smoke pot, you just go to jail for the rest of your life, and it's insane. I hope it's not a situation like that, but security still seems to be a concern there for even the crypto community, because I mean, my friend got mobbed in Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico has been an upcoming city, or I guess island, for a long time. It's technically a U.S. territory. And to experience, these things, because he was wearing a Mutant Ape shirt, and somebody said, oh, that's an NFT. And, some guys just jumped him. And it's crazy because, he claims the police was watching. And, stuff like that is just not okay. It's unacceptable. Unfortunately, in Latin American countries, there is a lot of corrupt police. And if they get paid off by local gangs or criminals, then they actually won't do anything, and they'll actually hustle you for money, which is a common issue where, there's poverty. So as long as, those things are taken into consideration, and I don't know, maybe they get better over time. I think, I mean, people live in Mexico, but Mexico has probably one of the biggest cartels. It's very centralized places. You just kind of have to be careful when you go into some of these countries still, because they are in fact still developing.
Yeah, 100%. So let's go ahead and dive into to the price analysis on what's going on, what we're currently watching, what we're currently looking at, and what I'm personally looking for this week, possibly the rest of this month. I'm also be talking about the close. We just closed the first quarter of 2023, one of the best starts to the year ever for Bitcoin. So I'm gonna be talking about that. I'm gonna cover some, I'm gonna talk about some support and resistance, and then we're gonna look. I want to look. I always try to look at both a bullish case scenario and a bearish case scenario.
No, Jay, bearish only. Bearish only, no bullish.
I want to look at both. So we have two different ways to play, and then what I'm gonna be looking at for this week, especially leading up to next week's CPI report. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. So first, let's look over the quarter one close here. Let me pull up this chart here. Let me see. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Okay, you guys, it's on the screen. Perfect. All right. So this chart here is, as you guys can see, quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four since 2013. So this is how Bitcoin has performed every single quarter since 2013. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 times it's had very, very good quarters to start the year off. And we actually had the third best start to the year since 2013, basically. If you go back further, like to 2012, 11, 10, the gains they're just too crazy. So I try not to count them too much because those gains, are numbers that I think that we see again because the price of Bitcoin was so low, the market cap was so low back then. And even then, like this, look at this in 2013, we had a 539% move up. Like that's insane, right? So I usually like to look at 2017 and upwards. But if we look at all the way to 2013, this quarter, and let me make sure I have the numbers exact here. Where's my my notes on this? I don't know where I put them. But we ended up the quarter up 70% for the first quarter, and it's the third best start to the year since 2013. I don't want to say in history, but since 2013, it is the best start to the third best start to the year. Now, another thing, so while I was looking at this, then I also started thinking, okay, like how has Bitcoin performed after that, right? Anytime that it's had this type of start, how has Bitcoin performed after that? And these are a couple things that I found. So 100% of the time that that Bitcoin begins in the green, it ends in the green overall for the year. All right. So going back further in 2013, I think all the way, if you can go back to like 2010, I think you can see charts from there. And you'll see this. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Let me see USD. We have to, I think, open up this one. No. There was one where it let me see everything. Let me see. I think it's this one here. Let's go to the 3-month quarterly chart here. Yep. Here you go. So this chart goes all the way back to 2010. So since 2010, this has happened. We've had a green start 7 times. 6 out of the 7 times, Bitcoin's price ended the year even higher than the first quarter. So we just went up. We closed this quarter at 28,475. So the only time that it did not end the year higher was actually recently in 2021, was it? Yeah, 2021. So in 2021 was the only year in Bitcoin's entire history where it didn't close the year higher than the first quarter. Every other time in its history, we've closed higher than the first quarter. Right? I already told you guys 100% of the time the year has ended in green when we've had a first quarter in the green. The yearly average return for Bitcoin has been 1,408%. if we go all the way back to 2012, again, I don't like to go back that far, because if we look at those numbers are, look at this, 5,000%, 500%, like those numbers are insane. I think at this point in time, I only like to go back to 2017 for that type of historical data that includes, you know, the average return of something, how much it went up. So if we just go back to 2017, then the average yearly return is 494%, right? So that's a little bit more realistic on you know, what we might be able to get in 2023. Not saying that we're going to go up 494%, but just to give you an average, right? Now, one thing to note, where'd my photo go? Hold on, let me put it up here, because I want you guys to see this again. One thing to note here, on all of these years, right, and just going back to 2013, two out of the 4 times, right, we got 4 years here from 2013 until now where the first quarter ended up green. 2 times quarter 2 ended up red. So in 2013 we had a red quarter, wasn't much. But in 2021, we had a 40% pullback there. So that was a pretty big pullback. And again, it's also situational. If we think back to what was going on in 2021 towards quarter 2, towards the end of 2020, right? That's when the Fed they cut all the rates. They were just printing a bunch of money, you know. So all that caused a huge influx in, you know, in value for Bitcoin. And then when they started taking it away, then of course, that's why quarter 2, we saw such a big move down like that. So plus whatever else was going on during that time. I think during that time was actually the China ban as well. During that time, Tesla pulled Bitcoin. You know, you couldn't buy Bitcoin and you couldn't buy Teslas anymore with Bitcoin. So a lot of things were going on throughout that time. But just to give you guys an idea, you know, without getting into too many details, just kind of giving it an overview. Twice, so it's 50% of the time, we've retraced or we've pulled back or we've ended up in red in quarter 2 from the run up in quarter 1. So that's something that I want to make sure that because again, I like to look at both scenarios, both bullish and bearish. I don't want to just be 100% moon boy, and I don't want to just be 100%, you know, doom, right? So I try to look at it from both points. So now, if we go and we pull up the chart now here, I'm gonna first pull up the weekly chart here, and let's look at where the resistance is currently and where the support is currently. So let's go into the weekly so we can get a little clearer picture here. So this is a weekly time frame, and right off the bat, we can see the resistance clearly, right? We're currently at a resistance zone here. And if we go back in history, we can see that this was clearly a support back here in May of last year. If we continue back, we can see in 2021, again, it was a support. If we go back further to 2020, we can see again a support. So what happens to support when it's broken? It becomes a resistance. And because it was such a strong support, that means that it's also going to be a pretty strong resistance. So we're going to need more than just a little bit of hype in order to break through this. We're going to need some more momentum. We're going to need a catalyst to really get through this level. Once we get through this level, though, I think that we can run up possibly to this next level up here, this next Fibonacci level, which is around that $37,000, $38,000 area. But for right now, that's going to be a major resistance that we're going to be fighting here. You can see we've been here for 3 weeks already, right? Now, as far as the supports go, you know, we look back right here. So we have a support sitting around that $25,000 area. Of course, 25,000, a big even number, right? Psychological support level that's played as a resistance and support various times if you look back. Again, another support right here sitting around the $22,000 area. This is a support that we were at previously. earlier in February. And then further back from that, we have $20,000, which is that it's that another big psychological number. It's a previous all-time high. So of course it's going to be a support. There's a lot of buying and selling going on there. Plus it's close to a Fibonacci retracement level there. So a lot of things going on there. And one more thing that I wanted to show you guys at that $20,000 level is, let me see if I can find it here. Here we go. We have a CME gap at $20,000. So if you guys remember, earlier this year in January, we had this CME gap here. And, you know, everybody was talking about whether or not it was going to get closed or not. And it went on for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks without it being closed. On the 8th week, though, guess what happened? That gap did get closed. And then we had a run all the way back up to where we're currently at right now, basically. So we have another CME gap, and it's sitting right around the same exact area as the last one, which is right around $20,000. However, we also have a CME gap to the upside. So there's, you know, you can make arguments on both of these, right? Because there's a CME gap here at $36,000. And the interesting thing about this CME gap at $36,000, if again, we pull up the chart here, where's this next level at? Once we break above this resistance right here, this is sitting basically at $36,000, right? That's exactly where that CME gap is. Another thing that kind of gives that scenario some confluence, if we pull up this head and shoulders pattern, there's an inverse head and shoulders patterns. I've been talking about this for the last week or two. You can see the left shoulder, you can see the head, you can see the right shoulder, and then the breakout, right? This is the breakout area right here. So the way that you measure the target for a breakout is you measure the bottom of the head to the shoulders where the break is, right? So you can see that this shoulder is aligned with this shoulder. So when we broke above that, you can see that we got a big candle up. So if you measure from the bottom of the head to the break here, that gives us our target, which it happens to also be $36,000. So now we have, you know, multiple different scenarios that are pointing at the same price point of $36,000, which is why I like to look at all these different things. Again, we're looking at both bullish case scenario, bearish case scenario. So we just looked at a bearish one, right? We have the resistance there. Then we looked at the CME gap at $20,000, but then we also looked at a bullish case where we have a CME gap up at 36,000, which is also where the Fibonacci level is, which is also where our target for our inverse head and shoulders pattern is. And then I think the last thing that I really want to cover here is on the daily chart. So if we go to the daily, zoom out here. This is a daily time frame now, and one thing to note here is that in the daily time frame, because it's more immediate, we can see the weekly time frame, the weekly pattern and a daily pattern both play out, right? Even if they're pointing in opposite directions. So right now, we have our you can see our price action here, and then this right here is the RSI. This is basically momentum, right? So you can see as the price was going up here, the momentum was also going up. But what's happened is as the price has continued to go up, momentum has dropped off. This is a bearish divergence. What usually happens in this scenario when the price is going up, but momentum is falling down, that usually leads to a short-term pullback. So, you know, once we pair that up with we're sitting at a strong resistance, that shows me that there is that possibility where we might see some sort of short-term pullback in the near future. And that pullback could be, you know, back down to 25,000, which is the first support, could possibly be back to 22,000, or it might be to 20,000 where that CME gap is, right? There's no way to know exactly how far that pullback could be. And there's no way to know if that pullback will even happen. But that's just what the charts are currently showing me right now. We have a bearish divergence that usually means a pullback. we're also at a big resistance that usually means a pullback, right? So those are the two different things that I'm looking at as far as from the different scenarios. And the one last thing that I want to cover as far as to end it on the bullish note, because I like to end it on the bullish note. I can't help myself, right? If we pull up once again, let's pull up here. Not that one. I have it on one of these charts. Not that one either. Not that one. It's on one of these, I promise. I just got to keep clicking. Here we go. I set up the different patterns in the different charts. So on the weekly time frame, we can see that we're seeing higher highs and higher lows for the first time since back in 2021 when we made our run to previous all-time highs. Not saying, again, this doesn't mean we're going to all-time highs, because remember, back here, we started it back here as well in 2020. But this is the first time, because last year we did not see this at all. So definitely, and again, this is a weekly time frame, so this is on a longer time scale, right? So it doesn't mean it's gonna happen. We're gonna see anything crazy happen in the next day or the next week or maybe even the next month. But I think as the year progresses and plays out, we could continue to see these higher highs, which could lead to our target of $36,000, which is the next main target here, which several things are pointing to for the price of Bitcoin. Now, as far as how I'm playing it this week, me personally, myself, right now, I'm shorting. Right now, I am short, and it's basically a hedge, right? So all my crypto, my long-term portfolio in crypto in Bitcoin is long, right? I'm holding long, right? I'm not selling any of my long-term portfolios right now. However, when in my trading, right now, I'm basically hedging against my long-term portfolio because I'm shorting at resistance. So when trading, when taking swing trades, day trades, scalping, you want to reach for the easiest fruit, right, at the bottom of the tree. Why, if there's a fruit, if there's a low-hanging fruit, why are you gonna climb the tree to the top to grab fruits from the top, right? Grab that low-hanging fruit. So that's what we're currently doing right now. At resistance, just go with what the price is saying. If there's resistance there, don't fight it, right? There's people that are like that, they're only biased in one direction and they refuse to believe anything else. So if they're like, they think Bitcoin's only going up, then guess what? Even at resistance, they're still long here. And that's a big mistake, because when we get pullbacks, those people are getting stopped out, they're losing money, whatever it is, right? So I'm taking shorts here. And again, I'm not saying to take a short all the way down to a new low or anything like that, but I'm slowly taking profits. I'm grabbing short positions here in the red. Then as price goes down, I take a little bit of profit when it goes back up into resistance. Again, open up shorts, and I'm gonna keep doing this until we break $30,000. I think $30,000 and a close above $30,000 is going to be that main price action that I need to see, not just me, but probably the overall market, in order to flip once again to longs. Because once we flip 30K, I think it's only a matter of time before we see $36,000 to $38,000. So I know I just covered a lot of things. I just spoke nonstop for I don't know how long. But that's basically what I'm looking at this week, as far as everything that's going on, all the different scenarios, how I'm playing it personally, and for me to take a break. Bitcoin Queen, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I think it's a pretty good play overall. Definitely a good time to have some long-term holds and hold on to them, because we are starting to ramp up and rally into that bull market. I do not believe that we will go any lower, and that's been clear. We've bounced off that bottom and we've rallied far from it. There might be some short-term slagging within the market, mostly because of all this stuff that's happening with treasuries and bonds, and the Fed trying to make sure they can strengthen those things and keep them afloat, while banks and other things are getting underwater, and people are not necessarily taking a lot of loans out at this time. So I think it is a pretty good play. I'd say that as long as we kind of keep, DYOR, dollars cost average, your due diligence throughout this period of time, there's going to be a lot of bullshit that pops up. In my opinion, this is the time for it. So just be wary with what you invest your money in, play it safe, and you should be good to go.
100%. And I'm just waiting for another China ban. I know. I feel one coming soon, right?
It's in my bones. Yeah, so interestingly enough, Hong Kong's been pretty bullish on the blockchain industry. I want to explain that, but my computer's dying and I forgot to plug it in. So let me grab my charger. I'll be right back, guys.
No worries, no worries. So let's get into the Q&A section of the live stream, guys. So if you guys have any questions about anything that we've covered today, or anything that you just want to ask in general in crypto that might be going on right now in crypto, if you're new to crypto, you have some questions, might be some things you don't know that you want to ask, feel free to drop that in the comments right now. Myself and the Bitcoin Queen, we will answer those for you. We'll give you guys a few moments. And yeah, and if you guys don't have any questions, then we'll wrap things up. So let's see. Let me pull up the comments section here. Rio Shanid, hope I said that right, says, why don't you make videos on Genopets? Right now, I'm not really doing any play to earn type of content because, my experience from last year was that play to earn it has not been figured out yet, and it's one of the hard learned lessons I think that we all learned in 2021. Not just Genopets or whatever it is, but just overall as far as play to earn, that type of that sector that has not been figured out yet. So the issue is that the way that the tokenomics is currently set up, it basically drives inflation to whatever that token you get rewarded is. So although when you first buy into a project, you might you might run the numbers and think, okay, in 90 days I could get my return on investment, and then it's all profit from there. As you get closer and closer to that 90 days and more rewards get out and circulate, that 90 days turns into another 90 days and another 90 days and it's basically they're holding a carrot in front of you. They're dangling that carrot in front of you and you're chasing it and you can never catch it, right? That's kind of what play to earn is. If you're into a project early enough where the community might be small enough, for sure you might get your investment back really quick, and make profits. But right now in the current environment that we're in, and from what we've learned in 2021, I'm currently staying away from any type of play to earn for now. I might be covering more of it in the future, but that's just kind of where my head's at right now. I think it's more important to cover, how to set yourself up for some success in the upcoming bull market that we know will happen again, because this is the opportunity to do that, right? I think play to earn, that's something that you do with extra funds, when you're bored. If you want to dabble into any of those projects, that's fine. But I think the most important thing right now is to set yourself up for success for the next 1 to 2, 3 years, whenever that rally really starts. So that's why I haven't created any content around that recently. Let's see. Our next question here is Ducky Dave. He said, still confident on Litecoin reaching the $40 to $60 range prior to rally. So if you look at if you look at Duckcoin, if you look at Litecoin, let me see, am I on the right chart? Where's my...
I feel like Litecoin was higher than that, pretty recently. Litecoin almost hit 99 or almost $100 the other day, no?
Yeah. So Litecoin's currently sitting at $91. What he's asking, so I did a video on Friday where I showed a support at that $40 to $60 range. So right now, we've already hit that support.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that right now we're going to go back to that support anytime soon. I think right now, remember that the halving for Litecoin is in August. I think the rally, the pre-halving rally already began, right? So we're already up to it's already up over 100% on that rally. I think my target for the pre-rally was around between 120 to 150 ish, maybe, with the upside of possibly $200. And my sell target was around June. So if you buy at this point, you can still make some. You can still make some gains, right? Because even if you buy at $100, let's say it goes up to 120 to 140, that's still 20 to 40%, ROI. Then you can sell at that top. If you try to sell at the top, remember all the data that I gave you was just averages in my analysis from previous halvings. Doesn't mean that's going to be exact numbers or exact dates. It's just ideas of what we can potentially see, right? So my deal was the average has been 45 days pre-halving is when the top comes in. That gave us a date of sometime in June, and then showing you guys the analysis that I did as far as resistances. It showed me a price range between 120, possibly 160, right? So if in June I see that the price of Litecoin is between 120 to 160, I'm probably selling, right? At least taking some profits there. And then I'm just gonna wait until it drops back into the support box, which is between $40 to $60. So I think it won't reach here again until potentially after that halving. So do I think it's going to get there again pre-halving? I don't think so, because that would mean over a 50% drop. I don't see any reason for that to happen. Will it get there after the halving? Probably, right? That historically we've seen it retraces 75 to 80% post halving before the post halving rally. So that is something that could happen potentially. But again, we have to wait and see. That's just kind of where my head's at right now as far as that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so halvings are pretty significant events. I think that obviously holding on prior to coming up to that rally before, because usually what happens is people dump after, or they don't have a significant price pump for about 6 months to a year. So, whether you want to just hold up until the halving happens and then pump it or dump it, or just hold it up until that 6 to 1 year time period. If you think it's going to pump after that, if you find Litecoin to be valuable, that's cool. Those are probably your best two things. I believe there's a Litecoin Cruise going on this year in celebration of the halving, ironically.
Wow,
so
that's crazy. I didn't even know that.
there's definitely, there's a Litecoin Cruise. I did hear about this. So Litecoin used to do a conference in Las Vegas, and they haven't been really doing it, like the Litecoin Foundation, whatever it is. Let me look. Cruise. And they were going to do Litecoin birthday cruise. Yep, at the Litecoin Foundation. So it's October 13th through the 16th. They were going to the Bahamas. I wonder, was this year? I wonder if it was this year. I hope it wasn't last year. I think it was this year, but yeah, supposedly it's a 3-day cruise leaving Miami. 2023. Yeah, so there is a Litecoin Cruise if anyone's interested in going to the Litecoin Cruise. If you go to litecoin.net, it's on there. It's the Litecoin birthday cruise that they're going to take a Royal Caribbean for 3 days from Miami to the Bahamas and back. So just an FYI.
That's pretty crazy. I actually pulled it up here on the screen. This is real, folks. Litecoin birthday cruise, October 13th through the 16th. So maybe you might be able to get some alpha there, right? Like who knows? Who knows who might be there? So
Charlie Lee's gonna be there apparently. So if you want to go hang out with Charlie Lee, he will be there.
What? I might have to book this. How much is it?
I don't think it's like it shouldn't be too expensive. I mean, like anything that's like cruise, probably plus a little bit. Apparently you have to call them and then tell them the group number, because I guess they have like special pricings or they book the rooms in blocks.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, it can't be that expensive, just because it's only a 3-day cruise and it's also Royal Caribbean. But I mean, it doesn't look like they are going to have any like official like itinerary for like, conferencey stuff. Um,
Yeah.
Actually, it says they're gonna do, yeah, it says they're gonna do activities. They're gonna have designated dinners, and then they're gonna have Charlie Lee and Litecoin Foundation team talk about their latest development. And then they're going to have a cocktail party. So that's pretty much the setup there. Yeah, I would say this is like maybe 300 to $400 max.
Okay. So
That's just an appropriate price for a 3-day cruise.
yeah.
And it also might depend on the room. These are probably standard rooms. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I'd
typical.
say it shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, it seems like typical cruise prices. That's actually interesting. I might look into that, and see what happens with that. That would be pretty funny. All right, let's see what else. What other questions do we have here? Yeah, Dave. I said it in the comments. I don't know if you saw it, but I'm happy to buy anywhere under $100 for Litecoin. So under $100, I'm happy to add to my positions. I think $100 is that threshold for me. Once it goes above 100, you start capping the possible upside that you can get on your return. Because we're getting closer and closer to that halving. So I would stay under 100 is where I'd add if I wanted to add more to my positions. Above 100 is where I'd stop, and above 120 is where I'd start considering taking profits. That's pretty much where I'm at overall pre-halving for Litecoin. Okay, let's see. 300 Rivers, what's going on? He asks, Jay, do you anticipate any sleepers for the next run-up? Of course, right? There's always sleepers that we don't know about every single bull run, every single bull cycle. I think Solana was one of the big runners from last bull cycle that people got in for like pennies or a few dollars, and it ran up over $200. And every cycle there's new projects coming into the game, and that we don't know until it happens, right? So what I've been doing, since it's hard to really guess or try to figure out, what you have to do is just kind of see all these new projects and see who their team is. You really got to do your own research on these things, see who are the people behind these projects, what kind of funding they're getting, who's funding, or who are they raising money with, or who are they partnering with. It basically comes down to that, and then what the purpose of the project is. Like, does that project have actual real value? Does it bring something to the blockchain or to crypto that maybe another chain or another project doesn't quite bring yet, or does it do it better than another one? So I know a lot of my favorite things that I'm looking at is probably layer ones, layer twos are probably projects that I'm looking into when I'm looking for things like that. And again, there might be a meme coin that like Shiba Inu that pops off, but I'm not really, I'm not looking into those things, because those things, until it happens, you don't know that was going to happen. Like, there's no way to predict that was going to happen with Shiba or any meme coin, right? So that's pretty much where I'm at. Do you have, what are your thoughts on that?
On meme coins?
No, not on meme coins. On
Sleepers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's just always gonna happen. And and the things that you don't expect to pump will pump, and the things that you think should pump aren't gonna pump. And that's just the name of the game. Because people like to play, shitcoin casino. There's a lot of people who I've met who say, I only invest in cap under 200,000 coins, and I'm like, what even is that? So I mean, that's just the name of the game, guys.
Under 200,000? You mean like circulating supply?
Yeah, so something crazy, like just just like dirt, the dirt of the dirt, things that come out randomly and like legitimate pump and dumps, because there's people who like mint currencies
Yeah.
just to pump them, and it's a daily thing. People mint cryptocurrencies daily. Fast forward, most of these, some crypto as a whole is what 14, 15 years old now. So it's been some time.
Yeah. Well, maybe a video idea is I'll go back to the beginning of the previous rally, maybe 2020, whatever it was, and look at the top 100 coins, and then see what would have happened if I put $100 in the top 100 coins, and what that portfolio might have looked like. So because if you like to play, and I call these lotteries, right? If you want to play the lottery, you can. You just have to make sure that you're using a very small portion of your portfolio for that. So it's like you're buying lottery tickets. Is the way that I look at it, right? People go to those. I know people that go play a lottery every single week religiously. Trying to win the lottery. You can do the same thing with these coins. You go, look up coins with very, very small market caps, and just throw money into into a bunch of different ones. Like, try to research them as much as you can, see which ones you think might have some sort of potential. Put some money in it, right? And all you need is one to really pop off, to really make your investment back, right? And to make a really nice profit. So if it's hard to pick sleepers, right? Because your guess is probably as good as mine. All right, so I think this is the last question that we have here, also from Rivers. At what price do you stop buying ADA? So he's asking, at what price do you stop buying Cardano? Let me pull up the chart on Cardano here. That's currently down. Let's see, it's down about 87% right now from its previous all-time high. I think I don't know. Are you a big holder on Cardano?
So I have some. I feel like I lost some Cardano because they were literally giving it away at their Miami conference, IOHK, like years ago. It was an ecosystem conference, and I lost whatever I had. And then I have some more kind of just sitting on wallets somewhere, which it's not much. It's like 600 or 700 of them, but they're sitting there. I think the concept of Cardano is cool from an outsider's perspective. I like the idea of focusing on the tech. I like the idea of Charles pushing the peer review. The only thing that I've heard from Cardano is that it's really, really difficult to develop on. Bridging is not the best thing. They do have a lot of users in their ecosystem. Cardano is going heavily after the African market, very, 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 very aggressively, and so far it's been pretty successful there. I think there just needs to be more people obviously using and pushing these networks, which is kind of like the angle for just any blockchain right now. So Cardano's cool. I personally don't trade Cardano. I don't really buy Cardano. I feel like it's one of those projects that I'll hold on to a bag for an amount of time, but it's one of those things where, from a development aspect, and that's kind of where I look at things, it's just not the easiest to implement on. And knowing that information, I'm just like, okay, well, I know things that might be better, in my opinion. So I put my my money where my mouth is, pretty much.
Yes, I apologize. I apologize. I forgot to switch the camera. So everybody was just looking at me while I'm looking at the screen.
Tell me more.
Yes, but I just did a very quick little analysis here on the price of Cardano, and we found some supports here. So you can see currently we're sitting at a support level that's basically between 35 cents to looks like around 20 cents, 25 cents. So I think right now it's still a good time to buy. You know, if you're looking to buy it, now it's not a bad time because it's, you know, it's right at a support level. And it's still down over 80% from its previous all-time high. Now, is it gonna reach its all-time high again? You know, we don't know. But in the next bull rally, everything seems to go up, even if it's, you know, regardless of what happens, because money just starts flowing in everywhere. So there is that potential where it can go back from its current price, where it's at 38 cents right now. It could potentially go back to over $3 where it was before, and potentially higher. So, you know, if I was looking at it just from where the price action is and looking at support and resistance, it's at a support right now. Not bad level to buy. Maybe, you know, once it crosses 50 cents, I'd hold off probably until maybe above 70 cents. If it breaks above this, and breaks above $1 as well, I think $1 would be a big milestone for it. Then we could see that run up to potentially previous all-time highs. But I think right now is probably the time to, if you want to load up or add some to your bags, right now is probably the best time to do so, because potentially it could go higher from here. Just from looking, I'm only looking.
I'm sure it will. I mean, we're starting to get into that period of time where, again, Bitcoin has rallied and has a good amount of dominance, and things are going to start going into the altcoins. You know, it's and from that, then you have the actual bull market, which is going to rally everything. Right. So I'm sure Cardano still has a ways to go for, you know, these upcoming markets, because there is a lot of followers, and more than things like I mentioned, like implementation and code and blah, blah, blah. We've seen that community is a big driver. So the Cardano community is very, very large. There is a lot of people who will drive it. And as long as, you know, the biggest bag holders, which will be anyone who invested in Cardano, or, you know, Mr. Hoskin himself doesn't dump on the community, then you should be okay.
Yeah, 100%. So any final thoughts on this week in crypto?
You know, there's been a lot of like not silly, but like not as like crucially important things that have happened. This week in crypto has been not a surprise. You know, we pretty much in a sense have just started the week. But there's a lot of things that have happened over, you know, even over the weekend. There was, I think, $25 million stolen out of the Ethereum ecosystem. Yeah, I believe it was $25 million. A validator actually did it with 32 ETH, which is kind of why the idea of even like proof of stake is kind of like risky in a sense, because all he did was stake 32 ETH, become a validator, wait until it was his chance to, you know, okay a node or propose a block, and then he basically baited MEV bots to a transaction and had some malicious stuff in there, and pretty much, you know, took $25 million. So it's like, you know, these things are starting to come up, and I don't see them going away with Ethereum. Unfortunately, Ethereum's been one of those projects that has just had, you know, it's great. We want it to succeed, but it's just had so much issues. And so many exploits and so many holes and crannies, and that's, you know, unfortunately, I'm bearish on Ethereum sometimes because it just has so much, you know, going on with it in terms of hacks, and that's just not the future of DeFi. But you know, that's probably the sadder part of stuff that I've seen this week. On the bright side, Argentina sold NFTs for plane flights, which is cool, but. Yeah. Other than cool. That, you know, pretty cool. Yeah. Nothing crazy, but I hope that the government stops attacking us is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, 100%. You saw Gary was asking for more funding so that they can attack us more last week. So yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as for me, my final thoughts are. You know, I'm not expecting too much this week unless there's some sort of news catalyst. I think we range probably around the current range that we've been. for the last week or so, and I think then leading up to next Wednesday, that's when we really start to see some more volatility come into the market. So it's pretty much where I'm at. I showed you guys already how I'm playing it. I'm short right now until we flip 30K in Bitcoin. Once we flip that, then I'm flipping back over to bullish as far as day trading. So that's pretty much it, guys. I think we've covered everything we wanted to talk about today. We're already over an hour. We've been live for an hour and 15 minutes. It's 2:30 p.m. here. Want to say thank you to Bitcoin Queen for joining me today. I didn't have to tackle this live stream on my own and talking nonstop for an hour straight without a drink. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully we have you back soon. And that's pretty much it, guys. I will see you guys on the next one. As always, peace and
Bye,
love.
guys. This is not financial advice. Peace out.